Well, welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner here on News Channel Nebraska as we are midway through the high school boys basketball season, and it's time again to check in with all three Columbus high schools. Starting the show off today, we're going to start with Columbus High and head coach Jimmy Moats as the Discoverers are sitting currently at 4-8. Let's go to the high school to see how Coach Moats feels his team is doing.
We've made some progress here. We're a little bit banged up right now with a couple guys injured, so we've had to have some guys step up and fill some roles. But even since then, you take away maybe the half against Norfolk in the second half, and even against Fremont the last 2.5 quarters. Our kids have done a really good job of competing and playing hard and giving themselves at least a chance to win.
But then you took a little bit of momentum before heading over to the GNAC in McCook. You beat Seward right here at home for your first home win.
Yeah, Seward was a big win for us. That was just more of a confidence deal. And even with that said, going into the moratorium, that can be a good or a bad thing. I was kind of hoping we could build some momentum off that, but with going into the break, but we had 5 days off. So it's tough to kind of pick up and come back and meet that intensity that you had even prior to that. But that was a nice win for us going into Christmas, and then going out to McCook for 3 days and playing the GNAC. I thought we did some good things. So, I mean, the Seward win was definitely a big home win for us because they got a really nice team, and that's one we can hang our hat on here early on the year.
And going into the GNAC tournament, they were all close affairs. Scottsbluff, a very good team in Class B. Then you defeated Lexington by 2 and then fell to McCook in the final by 6. But what did you take away from that trip out west in those 3 contests?
I thought we played to the level of our competition all 3 days. Even against Scottsbluff, I thought our intensity was good. Even after a 5-day break in the second half, we got it to, I think, 6 late in the game. We just couldn't make that big shot when we had to. And then we had to grind one out the second day against Lex. Lex is a much improved team. That's got a lot of young kids. Even they're getting better each time they step on the floor. And we had to grind that thing out. We had a big second half from Mitchell Griner, who scored 16 points in that game in the second half. So we got to win there. And then having to play McCook for 5th place on their floor, definitely a true road game. Just didn't feel like we brought that effort and intensity like we had.
And I guess the next little chapter, if you will, right after the tournament, something you weren't expecting as a head coach. Oberg goes out, one of your key players with a hand injury, also Wrinkle. So you have 2 new starters, 2 sophomores you plug in for the game against Blair, and you got to win.
Well, when you lose one of your best players, your leading scorer, definitely that's going to shake up a lot of things. And when your best defender's on the floor for the most part, that definitely changed a lot of things from a defensive standpoint. But we had some kids step up. I thought Mitchell's effort against Blair was really good. I mean, with his scoring effort. But what kind of went unnoticed was his 4 assists, 4 rebounds, and the way he managed the game, I think, is the most important thing that you take away from that with him. And then our sophomores, Jazz Ackerson, Andy Pike, and Michael Cook, really stepping up and giving us some big minutes there against Blair, which was a win we needed. We needed that one badly. And it was good to see some of those kids step up. And even with John Lucky, Kobe Ackerson, Drew Sterick, Brendan Beard, those kids that filled some roles here in that game, I thought we did some really good things there.
And then the opposite end of the spectrum, you go up to Fremont on Friday, a very, very good team. And again, when you still have those young players in, you maybe saw that little bit of youth have a factor against a more senior-laden team.
Yeah, you could tell that some of those kids had not been in that environment before. And again, that's a great environment for high school basketball. It's a Class A team that's going to be in the mix come March. They got a nice nucleus of players. Definitely got better with the 2 transfers from Omaha Central. And their athleticism, their size, their speed definitely gave us some problems. In all honesty, I thought our half-court defense for the most part was okay. Where we got in trouble was in transition, not getting back on defense. And when you turn the ball over and you get points off turnovers, that's a big plus factor in terms of a basketball game. And Fremont just flat out did that against us. And it's one of the better teams they've had in quite some time. They got a big win on Saturday too. So you look at who we've played. I mean, Norfolk, Fremont. We've seen a lot of really good teams on the first part of the year so far.
And you were pretty busy Friday after the contest in Fremont. You had a first annual youth tournament right back here in Columbus.
Brought in 96 teams. We had 145 games in 2 days played here in Columbus. I think you got to get your program involved, our feeder teams involved, and I think that was one of the things coming in here, this job that I really wanted to do and push right away. But you can't do it without great help. You can't make this thing a great event if you don't have great help, and we had tons of help and volunteers with this tournament this last weekend. I just want to thank those people because it's a lot of work for me to help coordinate some of these things, and you can't do it without good people.
How do you feel you're at, and how are you approaching this week with Aurora coming up?
We're trying to treat this as if this was a district week in kind of a one-game scenario, kind of playoff in terms of our preparation. I told our kids that even to start practice here today. So that's kind of how we're treating it. We're going to try to see where we're at. We're going to work on some things here this week. We got to do a better job of taking care of the ball. We got to do a better job on the glass. Defensively, we got some things we need to fine-tune. But it's nice to have at least 5 days here where we can address some things and be ready to go for Saturday against a really good Aurora team who's a top 10 team and has got some nice wins. They've got a nice player in Leiniger who's a really good guard, a big inside in Austin Allen, and then the Penner kid that's a sophomore can shoot it. So they've got a really nice team, very comparable to a Beatrice, Scott, somebody like that we've seen early on. So it should be a good game on Saturday.
Now, on the last edition of Coach's Corner, head coach Bryce Roth and the Lakeview Vikings were looking for win number 1 on the season. But that is no longer the case, as the Vikings have grabbed 2 wins since we last checked in, sitting at 2-8. Let's go down to Lakeview High School and check in with Coach Bryce Roth on how his team's doing.
Yeah, Centura was a great, obviously good to get our first win. I thought, heading into moratorium with the win against Centura and the win against David City, a big win where we played really well. We had a lot of momentum at the wrong time, because then you go into a 5-day break and of course we had some bad weather too, so we had basically 6 days off, which is pretty rough. And we came in against a pretty solid Twin River team for the holiday tournament for that opening round, and we were looking to hopefully improve from where we had left off, but I think moratorium was not very kind to us.
And well, what were the good things, looking at that 2-winning streak that you had? What were the things you saw from your team that allowed you to get those W's?
Well, if you look offensively, we only scored in the 50s and then in the 60s. Obviously, we had more consistent scoring. We didn't have any of those 5 or 4 minute spells where we couldn't score. We had our big guys have gotten going a lot more, and that's even with into the new half of the season, I guess. We have had consistent big play, even in our last 2 games, even with our last loss against when we were at DC West. They played very well, probably the best game of the year. But that's probably the biggest thing with those 2 wins was just offensively we scored. Defensively we know we're going to be okay most any night, but offensively we got to find ways to put buckets on the board.
And then you mentioned the Twin River loss in the moratorium. Then you take on Schuyler in the consolation game, lose by 1. And then your next game, Douglas County West, was a 3-point affair. So I guess, is there any silver lining in those 2 games? They were close games even though you didn't win them?
Well, it's tough. You want to be competitive, and I think we have been. Twin River, we were up 1.5 and just did not close it out in the second half. And those are tough situations, tough losses where you really start to, winning close games like that gives you confidence. And I think losing close games like that sometimes works the exact opposite, where, you don't see success with what you're doing. You start, guys might start questioning, or lose a little buy-in. But, I really like our effort. We're holding teams defensively under 37% shooting, and we're holding them right around the 44-point a game range, 43 points. And I don't see that changing, but hopefully we can continue to improve offensively down the stretch.
And maybe that's the hard question to answer, is how do you look for that offense, or how do you get that offense? Do you think more inside or more perimeter shooting? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think you do a little bit of both. Our perimeter shooting, if you look at DC West, we were 1 for 10 from 3. And that's not, we're better shooters than that, but we're just not shooting with confidence. So what we have done is we've looked to go a little bigger. We've inserted maybe 3 bigs in it, 1 more extra big in the lineup, and take a guard out where we're playing with 3 bigs and trying to capitalize on that. And of course, if you're not scoring as well, we're trying to look at maybe getting more offensive rebounds. And there's trade-offs to that too, because if you're not, obviously if you're crashing the boards and you're not getting offensive rebounds, sometimes you're liable to give up some runouts and maybe baskets and transitions. So, it's a double-edged sword, but I think it's something we have to look at. We've played a little bit bigger. I think not every team are we going to be able to do that with, but I think teams that we, like Pierce, for instance, is more guard-oriented. We might look to go a little bit bigger as well tomorrow night.
So you're sitting at 2-7. How do you feel just record-wise? Do you feel it's justifiable? You think you could have had a few more wins, a few more losses, and just the overall status of your team at this point? Yeah,
I think the record does not show, what we're capable of, obviously, and I think my message when we met on Saturday for film was to the guys. I was like, we can't focus on our record at this point. We got to look forward and work on continuing to build on each game. Sure, we could have won some other games, but I'm not going to say we should have, because we were capable of probably maybe getting a few extra stops, maybe down the stretch, beating Schuyler, or at Wayne on the road, really close game where we lose by 3. Even Boone Central, all those games we've been very competitive. We've been close. We just being right there, just not be able to finish. And hopefully that's a learning process. Hopefully we can get these guys to figure that out and just find a way to win in close situations. So I love our guys, and they're still working hard. They still have a good attitude. They still are buying in. And I would just say, sure, our results have not been what they want or what maybe even fans want, but we are getting better. We're taking care of the ball, averaging probably 11 turnovers a game now, 12 turnovers a game, which is really good for us right now. And we're getting the shots we want, and we just got to finish. And we're playing hard, playing with good effort. Guys have good attitudes. That's all I want as a coach. We're having a lot of fun. We just got to find ways to win.
Well, last but certainly not least, the Columbus Scotus Shamrocks sitting at a perfect 12-0. They're still undefeated and sit at number 2 in Class C1, just behind also 12-0 Bishop Neumann. Something to look forward to, as both these schools are going to clash in Wahoo in early February. But now we're going to check in with head coach Jeff Anuka at Scotus High School, who recently got his 300th win and is enjoying quite the season with his team.
I think we've done a great job this year. We've been really consistent in everything that we've done so far. We've played great defense. We've only had 2 teams get over 50 points on us so far this year, and that's a real hallmark of this team. And probably the other outstanding part of our game is the way we share the basketball. We really move the ball well with each other. A lot of times we have 4 of our starters get to double figures every game, so that's a great asset to have.
And what do you attribute that great defense to? The athletes you have on the team, the amazing coaching by you?
No, we're athletic, we're quick, and we really enjoy playing defense. We've bought into playing good defense. We know that we can bring that every night, and if you assert yourself defensively, you can really take it to somebody.
And the last time I talked to you for a Coach's Corner, you were preparing for a very big weekend against 2 undefeated foes, Pierce and Crete. You beat them both, so obviously you're undefeated, you did, but your thoughts looking back on that weekend?
That was going to be a tough weekend for us. We knew that those teams were very, very good. We played Pierce. We had about a 13, 14-point lead in the third quarter, kind of let that slip away, but reasserted ourselves in the fourth quarter and won by 8. The Crete game had to bounce back right away again the next afternoon to play. Again, had about a 14, 15-point lead in the third quarter. I think they got it down to 5 or 6 in the fourth quarter, but we made enough of a run at the end to win the basketball game. And as it's shown, as the seasons wore on, those 2 teams are very good basketball teams. They're both sitting at about 9-2 on the year.
And then the momentum went right into the holiday tournament. You defended your title. You defeated a Schuyler team and then a Twin River team in the final. A very good team, but you handled them pretty well.
We did, and we played one of our best basketball games of the year that night. We really got off to a good start, 37-13 at the half. We were able to kind of dictate the tempo that we wanted. And, I think our pressure kind of got to them a little bit. We got some deflections and got some easy runouts for ourselves. So it was a really solid holiday tournament. You never know what you're going to get when you come from a holiday off the 5-day moratorium. You never know what you're going to get, and I thought we played really well.
And we talked about this after that contest against Twin River. Looked like you really went to another level as far as this team's concerned. What do you attribute that to, and how do you feel the level you're playing at now after that Twin River game?
I think the real competitiveness of our kids really shown in that game. They really wanted to win that holiday tournament. It's something that you kind of hang your hat on. It's a goal you have every year. You want to do that. And I think our kids understand that we have to get better every day. We have a Neumann team that's rated above us, that's now rated in the all-class top 10 at number 10 today. So we have to get better every day, to reach our goal, to get to the state tournament, and to possibly someday have a chance to play for a state championship. You've got to work every day. You don't take any days off. It's a grind, but our kids embrace that grind.
And something else, that Twin River contest, that was your 300th win. Talk about that and what that means to you, because that's a big milestone.
It is. It was special. It was special to do with this group of kids too, and it was special to hear at Scotus because I felt like we've really built something really good here. We have great support from our kids, from our parents, our students section. It's a fantastic place to be, and I just love being at Scotus.
And moving into 2016, you're a perfect 3-0 in the new year, so you're just chugging right along. How do you feel your team's at, sitting at 11-0? Obviously, you couldn't have asked for much better of a start.
There's always room to get better, and we just finished up working on practice. There's always room to get better. We got a tough game at Norfolk Catholic tomorrow. You got to just keep your nose to the grindstone and just take it one day at a time. not thinking about too far ahead in the future. But I like where we're at. We're progressing very well, and we're becoming a very good offensive basketball team.
And just touching finally on the offense you provide, you have so many weapons. We talked about it earlier, but how is that as a coach that you have anyone who could go off for 10, 12 points at a time?
It's a luxury. Miles had a great game on Saturday against Schuyler. He needed to be a little more aggressive than he had been in the previous games, and he just asserted himself great. Dalton's been playing outstanding, playing at really kind of an all-state level. Cody, the same thing. Cody had the little bit of a knee injury, but he's coming back good. And Nate Ostick's been so solid for us all year long, and Jackson Kumpf is playing the best basketball of his career. So, our 5 stars are really solid. The bench guys, Trevor Caslon, Tate Buncannon, Justin Brockhouse, Evan Shohan, those guys are doing a great job for us as well too. So we really like our team.
And how is the team energy? Obviously, they have to be pretty happy sitting at 11-0, but what's the vibe of your players?
As long as Jackson Kumpf is our energy provider, and he provides it every day, everybody else follows suit, including the coaches. He brings it every day. He's the guy. He's our Energizer Bunny.
Anybody you want to call out, maybe need to step up their game a little bit right now?
My assistant coaches, they need to step up their game. No, they're outstanding. They're outstanding. We just got to keep working. You can't fall in love with the fact that you're 11-0. You got to keep working, and that's for everybody.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Coach's Corner here on News Channel Nebraska. Be sure to tune in. We're going to update the show about every 2 weeks and check back in with the boys' progress as we get ready to wrap up the season. And soon, playoffs are going to be here before you know it. Again, I'm Brandon Axmit. Thanks for watching.